If one does not know the composition and nature of what he worships, for all he knows it may be a monster. Scientifically, religion is the interference of the dead into the lives of the living. The dead are those negative forces of nature who must suppress, repress, and subsist on living substances and living beings in order to survive. Sixth ether is the power of the dead because it is evolutionary forces that cause things to get old, die, and decay. Therefore, the prime purpose of religion is to spellbind people to do the will of the dead for survival of the dead. Religious worship increases the power of the dead and makes the dead stronger to cause more suffering and more death. And the more deaths there are, the stronger the dead get, unless the deaths are neutralized and counteracted by new cycle gases, the revolutionary cycle gases. Scientifically, the Bible is a universal book of the dead. There is no one in the Bible today who is living. Everyone in it is dead, and the beings, sixth ether and ghosts, the people of that Bible we're talking about, were dead. Hence, by all means, it is the book of the dead, and those who believe in it today are dead, mentally dead. Therefore, in your mental death, which is universal ignorance, it is the preacher's job to get you ready for physical death to make the dead stronger. Without a doubt, the Bible is a eulogy of the dead, and thereby those who believe in it are worshippers of the dead.
Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Explanation. It's really saying that Ghost God will rule for 6,000 years in the person of haplogroups who have a common ancestor, which is haplogroups H, I, J, K, M, T, U, V, W, and X, the Caucasian race, scientifically. That resurrection started from the Asian islands where the Caucasian race originated 6,000 years ago. The second death is the 3 South cataclysm, will have no power, meaning Ghost God is already scientifically dead, ethically speaking, so he, Osiris, can't be harmed, but humans can. Remember, in Noon Science, Christ means ghost, and it's not a positive force of the negative side of nature called Zupu. What are the etymological or original meanings of the name and titles God, Jesus, Lord, and Christ? The etymological origin, original meaning of the word God is ghost, and ghost is of death. Ghost is guard and spirit of the cemetery or necropolis. Ghost is guard of the dead, mental and physical dead. Ghost is God and God is ghost. The word ghost means gas. It is the gas of death in part. And if you look up the etymology of spirit and gas, same thing, or ether, they all interchangeable. Alright, Bible Interpretation Book 2, number 87. The satanic scapegoat doctrine maintains that the ghost, the God, and the spirit of the Caucasian race must survive by killing the living to obtain their blood, because ghost has no blood or life fluid of its own, and it loves most of all the blood of the woolly-haired people. For theirs is the richest by nature of all blood on the planet. So the dead, the ghost of Dracula, the Caucasian race, creates conditions called captivity and slavery so that it may have victims whom it can conveniently prey upon whenever it needs additional blood for life. The blood of the best known victims of Dracula is sent to the high places in Caucasian religions, and that blood is offered up to 6 ether Jesus and the ghost God, the spirit of the Osiris mummy, and the ghost subsists on the blood. Then ghost gets thick and strong in the atmosphere around the earth, for it is multiplied from the blood of those victims offered up in rituals, and those whose blood is spewed outright. As ghost gets thicker and strong in the atmosphere, and its posterity, the Caucasian race, gets stronger to perpetuate oppression and captivity and keep the captive prepared for future needs of the ghost and its posterity. Now, what this means is, number one, ghost in the atmosphere is methane. You got to go back and look at some of the videos I did called how oxygen is used to possess human beings, and in there it's scientifically explained how the ghost does these things. All right, and we're going to get down into more scientific information about ghosts in the science field. But now here it mentions that people have been in religion. Of course, if you go to a church, you don't see them sacrificing dark peoples, because that's why that means they have underground or secret society. That's what the occult thing is about. This is why people don't know, unless you study the occult, that most of these sacrifices and of different kinds, whether it's human beings or animals or children or whatever, is deep underground.
This year, NASA released a new visualization modeling the sources and transport of methane across our globe. With this new visualization, we can see how methane sources vary by location and season. In South America, the Amazon River basin and its adjacent wetlands flood seasonally. This creates an oxygen-deprived environment that is a significant source of methane. In the last 200 years, methane concentrations have more than doubled, mainly due to human activities. Europe is the only region to show a decrease in methane emissions over the last 20 years. In India and Southeast Asia, rice cultivation and livestock are two of the driving sources of methane. In China, economic expansion is driving a high demand for fossil fuels, resulting in an increase in methane emissions. This is a stark difference to the Arctic, where natural sources, such as natural wetlands and potentially thawing permafrost, account for more than 70% of the region's methane emissions. Taking a step back, we could see that methane has vastly different sources around the globe. By getting a better sense of the story of methane, scientists and policymakers can better understand the sources of methane emissions and work to reduce this greenhouse gas.
I found this methane cycle on the net, and it's just giving you an example of how the methane continuously keeps going in the atmosphere through domestic animals, landfills, the sea, the bed, the floor of the sea even. It's everywhere. New cycle gases will take place after the cataclysm, so it's not going to be like this for very long. Check out this next picture. Each year, 2 cows produce as much heat-trapping greenhouse gas, which is methane, as 1 car driven 10,000 miles. That's a lot for 2 cows. Alright, now I'm gonna go to the gematria. We see methane here is equals 66. Methane is ghost in the atmosphere, and God is ghost. Mankind is the next word, that also equals 66. And mankind is the posterity of ghost, the dead. And all people with straight hair by nature are mankind. Next we have here 6 dead. That comes up to 66. And 6 represents death and the dead, mentally, physically, and spiritually. 6 ether produces ghost, the last stage of evolution in conscious gases. Jesus is 6 ether and God is ghost, the conscious gases of death. The two are opposites of the same thing. Leviathan, the zodiac. One chief symbol of the zodiac is the cross, which comes from the word crescent and crocodile. The words cross and crescent refer to the moon, and the moon is 6 power. The moon is a dead universal body that supports the cemetery and multiplies negative forces called demons and monsters and ghouls. The word demon means dead moon and dead mind. The word monster means moon star, meaning moon actor. The word ghoul means ghost soul. The word monkey means moon key. The moon is the base of the dead, and because it is dead, it supports and magnifies death. God is the dead, and this is why they say you cannot see God and live, and is also why they say you cannot see God until you die. God is ghost, the gases that the dead emanate. Sixth ether subsists on a living being and eventually destroys the living being, and when the living being dies, it becomes God as the ghost gases evaporate to the atmosphere. Wherever you see the cross, the dead is there, either the physical dead or the mental dead or both. We see the cross on the church and the mental dead hangs out there. We see the cross on the graveyard and the physical dead stays there. Ethiopian culture does not support the dead, and this is why our ancestors burned dead bodies instead of burying them. Dead bodies multiply and emanate negative forces that must live on and destroy the living in order to survive. Ghouls subsist on dead bodies and get stronger and more powerful to possess people and create diseases and cause people to kill each other. The wise neither judge a spiritual book by its cover nor by the writing that is found therein, because both can be very deceiving. The Bible is an example. There is just enough truth in the Bible to cause people to believe the deceptive, false, and slave teachings of it. The way the wise judge spiritual books or religion is by what the leaders and adherents of that book or religion do, not what they say or what the book states. Because as it is said, actions speak louder than words. And you know the tree by the fruit it bears. In other words, one knows what the spirit forces of a book or religion represent by knowing what the leaders and adherents of that religion do. So if Caucasian spiritual books and religion are judged by the actions of its adherents rather than by words, this tells us what the spirit forces of their books and religion are dragon and monster forces, speaking beautiful words and making melodious music, and at the same time murdering darker peoples and taking their lands, oppressing, suppressing, stealing, lying, and ravishing the earth and the peoples thereof in general.